Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with a weekly garden tour. Now, the last 2 days, I've actually gotten so much accomplished and I'm really feeling good about myself. And for the snotty person who wrote something about me not seeming like I like to garden, well, I have a hand signal for you, but I'm not going to do it. Anyhow, I've had the best time getting spring yanked out as I've gotten all of the seed harvested. My refrigerator is bursting with seed that I will be offering this fall. I have finally set the fall open house date, which is officially Saturday, October 9th from noon to 4 p.m. And I will definitely be adding that to my website with more information, but this will be your chance to be able to buy all of those fabulous spring things that you have been tempted by for the last few months. I will have all of that seed available during the fall open house. Now, I have a lot of updates to share with you, but I just wanted to show you who's living his best life. Cuppy Brewster, hanging out in the shade at the fire pit. Literally, the cats are the only ones who use the furniture in the garden, so it's good that somebody uses it. But I can't wait to show you what I've gotten done and what I still have to do, so let's hop to it. Well, since I'm here in the fire pit area, I'll show you the successful tomato border there. I do need to do some pruning on those figs because they're starting to grow bigger and cause too much shade. But then I'm really sad to show you, and this looks significantly better now, but this is kind of how mid-season wilt works. You see how that is wilted now? About 3 hours ago, the entire plant was wilted and collapsed, and that's the sign that you have, you know, an infection. It's usually a soil-borne infection that, unfortunately, this tomato was not going to make it. In the pot next to it, this tomato did not have that problem, so I'm really happy about that. You see, there's lots of fruit to come. So I am just gonna tear the band-aid off, which is what you have to do. I'm just gonna, you know, remove this plant. And this is one that should have been resistant. This is Mountain Fresh from NC State, but you know, it's just what happens here. Specifically here at my house, I have a lot of soil-borne problems that I just can't seem to overcome. Now, one area that I got cleared this morning and replanted, this was filled with poppies, but also the creeping Jenny, Lysimachia nummularia, had totally overtaken this bed. So I ripped it out. What I'd really like is for the strawberries to creep in and cover this space, but for now, I'm happy to have some eggplants and some peppers planted in this area. And of course, the blueberries. This is Sunshine Blue, which continues to have dieback issues. I need to cut that dead branch down. Compared to Powder Blue, which I will always say good things about because it's the best blueberry that I grow. These are just starting to ripen. You guys, oh my God, it's the best blueberry. It's the best blueberry, and look at how loaded down these branches are. It's so good. Remember, these were planted in troughs of ground-aged pine bark, sold as soil conditioner. Blueberries are really acid-loving. They're very specific to needing low pH. And so here, even though I'm on sand and I'm generally more acidic than neutral, every year I have to add more pine bark as a mulch cover to ensure that they are staying acidic enough. So I'm gonna keep on showing you some of my disasters. These hydroponics are not going well at all. I can't quite figure out why these look so bad. When the sun hits them, they completely get wilted, and I'm not gonna be able to tolerate it much longer. I'm just gonna rip them out and take them away. I'd be better off having a big pot here than underperforming hydroponic pots that make a bunch of noise. And then I never did find the hornworm, but this one, my homemade one, these plants aren't suffering nearly as much. They haven't grown as well, but doggone hornworm has come in. Look, it's just devoured the plants. And yeah, like I said, I have not found the hornworm. I have not found the culprit. This border still has a lot of work to be done, and of course the figs are just, you know, they're doing what figs do. Bree. I don't know why I expect them not to do this, but I have some pruning to do to keep this border making sense. Believe it or not, there's less in here than there was a few hours ago. But I'm really happy with this side of the greenhouse. The cucumbers have totally taken off and they're growing up over. They love to attach themselves to this shade cloth, this 50% shade cloth from Gempler's. So it's a really easy, low maintenance way to grow them because they do it themselves. And the corn, you can see, the corn is doing really well. Now, there's only 3 plants, so it's a ridiculously not meaningful harvest. I have a lot of corn still to plant. I'm by no means caught up, but I have made progress this week, and so I'm trying to celebrate that. I think I have a soil-borne problem happening. So you see this leaf mutation on tomatoes is not normal. There's something going wrong. And you know, these are in big 100-gallon root pouches. So you know, I guess it's just endless. Tomatoes, I don't know why I'm so addicted to tomatoes, because they make me feel so bad about myself. This border, I just need to come in and clean up, and then I can get the bottle wall finished, you know, fill from all of those. Over to here, I didn't do that because I didn't want to disturb the poppies. The time has come. This messiness is driving me completely crazy. And I do need to come in and harvest the columbine seed, because Lord knows I don't actually need more columbine in here, so I don't need this all self-sowing. So I'll be able to offer that this fall as well, which is a really beautiful kind of various different shades of purple. So obviously I'm obsessed with showing you all the stuff that I still have to do. Ugh. It's a lot to do, but you know what? I don't have any more travel until September. I have no reason that I can't get this done. I worked for a solid 6 hours today before neighbors showed up to hang out, and so, I mean, literally by tomorrow I could have this border wrapped up. I just need to collect the carrot seeds, which are fully ripe now. There's lots that are, well, this isn't quite ripe, but there's plenty that are ripe that I could get in here and get this cleaned up. Nice thing is the writing spiders, or the banana spiders, have started to show up. Thing is, I'm gonna disrupt their webs because I'm gonna rip all this stuff out. They're very precariously perched, like this one here. You know, I'm gonna harvest this wheat and take all that out, and that's what its nest is, or its web is attached to. So I'm a destructor of ecosystems for spiders at this time of year. Okay, moving into some areas of progress. I got all of the larkspur and poppies collected out of here, tore out all of those stalks and got this replanted with coleus, peppers, sweet potatoes, and okra. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. I'll get mulch tomorrow, and then this bed will be like neat and tidy and organized for the season. The tomatoes that I planted in that feed trough back there are doing really well. We should be harvesting from those probably in a few weeks. So I got the pool bed cleaned out, and you see what's left, you know, the perennial Asclepias and the coleus that I planted about a month ago. And though I was planning on using those colocasias in the front bed, I had a vision today, I'd love y'all's opinion, on having those planted on the corners here. So when you come out the back door, you have this really amazing tropical experience. I'm not 100% sold on it. just trying it out. If you have an opinion, I'll show you the other place where I was planning on putting them. I have more potatoes to harvest from these bags. People asked, this is the sign, like when the foliage starts to look really ugly, that's a good sign that it's time to knock them out, harvest the tubers. Got this bed cleaned up and replanted. Again, peppers and sweet potatoes. These again are the Treasure Island sweet potatoes that I planted here. These will get mulched tomorrow. Sun Gold tomatoes have been planted for a few weeks. They're doing well. Got a few to harvest. And I planted some chocolate something. Chocolate chestnut. Chestnut chocolate? I don't know. Something like that. Those two right there. And I got this bed, you know, cleaned up a lot so that you can actually see this echinacea, which is the second generation. And the leaf spot may be because there was a huge, you know, a huge branch from that persimmon growing over it, so the airflow wasn't great. But that's the second generation of this one. And I still think this is the winner echinacea of this series, which is from Ball Horticulture. These have just done fantastic. You can see that I showed you a few weeks ago, these weird crusted ones are still there. You know, they just, you see there's the weird crusted stalks. I'm in love with those. And in this area, blueberries are finally starting to ripen as well. Lots here. Cardinals have been stealing them, but you know what? My approach to blueberries is if the birds steal all your blueberries, you don't have enough bushes planted. But you should never ever have to wrap your blueberries in netting, which causes so much trouble for birds and snakes and lizards and all kinds of other things that exist in your ecosystem, whether you want to recognize that they're a part of it or not. So don't use netting. Just plant more blueberry bushes. More seed that I need to gather is from the Lunaria. Did get this bed kind of cleaned up. You can see a lot of the perennials that were planted in here. There's some Veronicas and some phlox. And so it's time for me to collect these, and you can kind of see the paper comes right off, and then that's the seed. Those dark things. So I'm gonna let some self-sow, but I'm gonna gather a lot because this is a really wonderful biennial to include in your spring landscape. We've kind of gloriously been getting rain. That's gonna change this week, but this fabulous Nephafia, red hot poker is blooming. Everything's really jumped because I'm not great at irrigating. And then all of the Nigella that's been self-sowing here for years is starting to ripen. So I will come through and collect this seed, which I'll show you. You can see why they call it black cumin. It's a very dark seed. Can't quite get the lighting right. There you go. So I'll come through this evening and gather these. This is the sign that you see the pods are tan and very brittle. That's how you know that the seed is ripe. Of course, the Eucomis here is doing really well. These don't bloom that great because of this massive live oak that creates a significant amount of shade. But I still like Eucomis as a foliage plant, and I especially like it with this native carex underneath it. It's sort of naturalized together. So the front street side border is looking good, but in big news, I got the wave not only mowed down last week, but mulched last night. And you can see there's quite a bit of barley growing up through it, and I'm gonna let that grow and see. But then my plan is to sow Seminole pumpkin seeds through here. And I'm really excited to watch those develop through the summer. I always plant pumpkins later, usually the beginning of July. That way they'll be ripening right before we have frost. And then I also got this foundation bed cleaned up. So I mowed this last week, got it mulched last night, and I'm gonna be doing a video on my plan for this. I'm actually drawing it out because being kind of indecisive, but I want it to look organized and neat. It didn't look organized and neat this spring, and I want to avoid that from happening again. So I'm gonna be a little bit more thoughtful, my plant placement, because you know, this is definitely a border that's important for the front of the house. I'm pretty satisfied with the left side, the sidewalk. I can't believe how Carex area has filled in. I wasn't anticipating these Carex getting this large. This is from the Ever series. And so they're like basically all the varieties are represented here. The bright yellow is Everwillow, and I think that's Everest, and I don't actually remember all of the names of these, but they're really wonderful. But even more impressive to me are these strawberries from Bushel and Berry. We just harvested a whole bunch just a minute ago. These just keep on flowering and fruiting. And we're hot, y'all. We're hot now. Like, it's not spring. And look at how many fruit are coming on this. These are a game changer, in my opinion, with regard to strawberry varieties. I definitely am going to be getting a lot more of these, and I am going to be putting them not just in containers, but planting them as ground covers all over the place. So I am already 1,000% convinced. I've only had them like 6 weeks, and they have absolutely defied all of my expectations. Speaking of defying expectations, my husband David made a really delicious mojito concoction using pineapple and mango. I'd recommend that. Say hi.
Hey.
He's the mojito maker. And then Aiden helped me yesterday. We got the wall replanted. This side of the wall. The other side has already been planted. And again, the Bushel and Berry, the raspberry, and the blackberry are doing really well in pots. And then this one, I think, is Rosie Bell. Again, it keeps flowering and fruiting and doing really well. And over to this side, these tomatoes are growing really well in these containers. The rice and more strawberries. This one, everything is a little bit smaller on it. I think it's because the pot is small. So I'm probably going to go ahead and transplant this into a larger container, because there's no reason to not let it grow to its entire fruition. But you see, there's ripe strawberries, some of which I missed, a little past their prime. But I think this plant would benefit from a larger container. So go ahead and get that accomplished. Here Abby is teaching everyone how to blow bubbles in a post-COVID world. No saliva needed. It's a very efficient way to make bubbles go everywhere. This sort of hangout patio area is doing great. I have some blossom end rot showing up on these tomatoes, and it's because this pot is a little bit difficult to reach with the hose, which is so stupid because the hose is literally right there, but I have it stretched through the bed and up and around. And blossom end rot is generally, it happens from letting your plants get too dry. It makes the plants incapable of absorbing calcium, but it's not actually a calcium deficiency that causes it. It's letting plants get too wet and too dry and kind of going through the extremes. And in this case, it's because this has gotten too dry. So good that I'll be home to micromanage keeping this watered really well. This border, which I had all these hopes and dreams of taking out sod and expanding the bed out to that crack, again, did not get done. But we'll just stay on my to-do list. It's easier to do when the grass is dormant. One thing that did get done last night that I've been dreaming of for years is training this weeping Celtis, or this weeping hackberry, up and over on wires so that we will have recovered patio space from this tree. And that was entirely inspired by this plant. This is Green Cascade, which is planted at the Ralston Arboretum. And I actually took a cutting of their plant, rooted it, planted it in this ridiculously giant pot, and have been dreaming of the day when I would have a patio covered with it. And so it's really nice that that's actually coming true. Well, you can see where I ran out of mulch. Sophia's marking it. And so I'll be getting more mulch tomorrow. The rest of this bed needs to get done. I have some sad azaleas to transplant into the ground here. The north side of the house doesn't have a lot happening. All the hedychium is growing really well. It looks great. I have a lot of tree pruning that needs to be done. All of these seedling echinaceas are fantastic, and it's always just surprising to see how well they will do in this much shade. So, you know, for those of you who don't garden in full sun, you still don't have to not be able to grow coneflowers, because they'll do quite well with even just morning sun, which is what these get. You see, the bees absolutely love them. This is just the straight species, Echinacea purpurea. Of course, this olive had 2 very mild winters in a row. It's done very well. Have not gotten olives from it, but the fact that it's still alive is something that brings me joy. And the rest of this border, it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is not causing me any maintenance whatsoever. Some borders need to be less work than others. Walking through here, you get to what my evening project is, which is to clean up all of the poppies and larkspur, gather more seeds from here, and then mow this border, which is completely insane. So I'm just gonna take the lawnmower, I'm gonna mow it all down, including the asparagus. I'm not gonna mow the bananas. The rest of it's gonna get mowed down, and then I'm gonna be able to kind of make sense of it. So I look forward to giving you an update on this bed next week, where it won't look like this, which is complete and utter crazy chaos. Nobody would want to visit a garden that looks like this. And finally, you can see all that phlox that I cut back in, I think, my last garden tour from here, which was 2 weeks ago because we were traveling last week. All of it is growing back out. You see, when you prune phlox down, it's actually to a great benefit because you'll end up with twice as many flowers. So it's just a more manageable height. It's not gonna flop over when we get heavy rains. And all those crinums have basically been saved. They're able to photosynthesize and probably aren't gonna flower for me, but at least I know I haven't lost them. Well, I look forward to giving you more updates on my progress in the garden. By next week at this time, I shouldn't have any remnants of spring left, and I will start feeling like I am caught up for the season. So until then, thank you all so much for watching, and have a great week.